Hi, I'm James McGuire, and on today's eSpeaks, we're talking about a new report out called the 2022 State of Business Technology Report. It reveals key trends in how businesses are approaching B2B enterprise tech, specifically automation. To discuss that, I'm joined by Vijay Tella, Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of Workato. Vijay, very good to have you with us today.
Well, James, it's really good to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. And I think the B2B tech sector has seen a lot of changes this year. I would say that the year 2022 has been one of the most change-filled years I've ever seen. Part of that is, of course, still prompted by COVID. I've got some questions about the report. I think it's a fascinating report. But first, what's your sense? What's the single biggest takeaway that you take from the report? What matters from this report?
I think there is first of all, I think some of the changes that sort of were driven in how companies work through the pandemic continue, but I think companies are sort of shifting their focus more to where they want to go, and the economic environment is definitely putting in pressures on the IT teams to sort of become more efficient and do more with less. So a little bit of continuation, but there's definitely a shift and focus on getting ahead of the efficiency and cost within IT.
Yeah, I think I've definitely seen that. It seems like that pressure comes from, and correct me if I'm wrong, the fact there's more demands on IT. We lean more heavily on cloud platforms, and so not necessarily the people running those platforms or running the IT infrastructure need to work harder, unfortunately, perhaps.
Yeah, I think it's ironic that the actual spend on that business technology is having to incur with like apps and other technologies has actually gone up, and it's just the adoption of cloud technologies and continued growth in their usage has sort of naturally kind of pushed up the spend on business technology. At the same time, the number of roles that the business technology teams are required to perform, from security to, connecting all of their apps together, implementing workflows, and sort of helping with some of the top company initiatives around things like employee experience and customer experience. So more things to do, but in a tighter environment.
All right, well, let's dig into the report and look at some key findings. I'd like to get your sense of some of these findings. So here's point number one from the report. 57% of IT teams are under pressure to reduce spending on software as a service. Now, I'm surprised about that. I thought companies love SaaS. So SaaS spending has really gone too far.
Well, I think there has just been sort of a mentality that we've had for a long time, that whenever there's a little gap in some part of your company or how things get done, you think there's an app for that and you go get that. And I think over time, there's certainly been just a explosion of these applications. And a lot of times what you don't necessarily need is a brand new app, but a workflow that ties together what you already have. So I think it's just a little bit of a mindset shift, because every new app brings in overhead for an IT perspective to kind of deploy it, integrate it with everything else that you have. It just over time starts slowing things down. And there was a sort of a fascinating study I can send you a link to, where from an employee's point of view, as the number of apps have gone, their productivity has been going down because of the context switching and the extra cognitive load that you have to take on. So there is such a thing as too much SaaS. I think being more deliberate about what you want to get done, how you're going to do it. In some cases, you already have what you need. You need to do a workflow that ties that together versus bringing another app. Workflow is integrating what you already have versus bringing an app that needs to now be connected to everything you have, right? It's a different mindset.
Yeah, I definitely hear you when it comes to the cognitive switching. I read this study that says that we knowledge workers, we people who stare at screens all day producing something, we switch focus so many different times a day. There becomes the switching itself is what it causes a certain amount of fatigue. It's not just the hours spent; it's the switching.
Absolutely.
Also from the report, this is a key point. 58% of leaders are focused on using automation to drive efficiency. I don't doubt that at all. I mean, I guess I almost wonder what's up with the other 42%. They're not thinking about using automation. So I'd say what's slowing down the move towards automation?
Yeah, I think it's I don't think it's a desire. There's a few things, right? I think it's the people that want to like make changes, automate things. Like these are typically people in the business teams. They understand the domain. They want to kind of be more effective at how they handle new leads coming in. They want to be better at how they execute orders in finance. So these expertise is in different parts of the company,
Mhm.
but the skills to do the automation historically has been with IT because they had the technical chops to kind of build this stuff. So there was a bottleneck. So
Mhm.
this low code, no code movement around how you automate, I think is a pretty big deal. Um, on one hand, it sort of provides the people with the impetus and ideas to automate, to actually make, sort of let them do the job. But at the same time, the role of IT becomes really critical, where these teams are not creating a bunch of technical debt all over the place. You're doing this in a way that is scalable, that is performant, and it's secure. So it's almost like, like a healthy democracy. You need like good institutions
Mhm.
along with empowerment of citizens, right? So
Mhm.
both that's I think that dynamic, having the empowerment of the teams and also the governance to be able to do it safely. I think those are the things that must come together to get to 100%. There is nobody out there that actually doesn't want to automate what they can and, like, get more agile. But there are some roadblocks, and there are some approaches to kind of getting over those roadblocks around low code automation.
Yeah, clearly the idea of low code, no code, if I look at the year 2022 and I had to pick just one theme, that is the theme I've heard more about. I've been in more discussions about low code, no code. I would say maybe this is the year that companies fully really discovered it. Um, and we should get back to that, but I want to go on to our next point from the report.
Yeah.
82% of teams reported they are facing higher expectations. We've talked about this a bit. So you continue to see a labor shortage in tech. It's the skills gap.
Well, I think there is a skills gap, which is why low code kind of thing is important.
Mhm.
Um, but there's also the number of things that need to get done is just grown a lot. Like, when you have more apps and there's more changes, like the pace of change is definitely much higher now than it was 3-4 years ago. So
Mhm.
you need to kind of sort of deploy more new types of workflows across all these apps. um, the you need to secure them, and the IT team needs to kind of be a bit of a player coach. They're not just, in the past they used to just be the people that get implement all these things. Now their role is shifting to be both a player and a coach to the business teams. So just the expectations of what IT and business technology teams need to do has put more, I think raised expectations is the right way to put it. It's and Some of that can be alleviated by. I think there's two ways to think about technology shortage. You need, more technical people, or you put the power of technology in the hands of more people. I think the latter is really the path forward.
All right. Well, let's drill then. Just drill down into Workato, your company. How is Workato addressing the automation needs of its clients? There are a number of automation companies out there. Why would someone choose Workato over some of the other competitors?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things. I mean, historically, this space has been quite fragmented. So I've been in the sort of this what we used to call middleware space for a long time. Middleware was literally, as the name implies, something that brought together all the applications and data together. I was a founder of a company called Tipco where we did this stuff. But when you look at
So it's connection. Just to clarify, it essentially it's almost like integration and connection software, correct?
yeah, it's integration. So, and it's automation. So now when you look at the space, there's a lot of different tools. There are integration tools typically focus at the data level historically, like, we called ourselves plumbers, digital plumbers,
Right.
connecting all the applications. And the automation or process automation tools were looking at how the work was getting done across different systems and stitching together workflows. So historically, there were different types of tools for data, business process, and also how user experience is brought together. So what Workato's approach has been to is that these are not separate problems. When you're onboarding new employees, automating the process automation or workflow automation of the employee onboarding is cannot be separated from the underlying data flows, and it cannot be separated from how the new employees and the managers and everybody are experiencing this. So we have this concept of recipes in Workato that holistically kind of, it's like an English, it's like a cooking recipe. It describes how you have all these apps and people and data work together to do the employee onboarding. So it's a single tool that captures all the things you need to do versus having it to break down into 2 or 3 different tools. And so there's three areas that we sort of really have moved the ball forward. One is kind of a unified approach to integration and automation, not as separate things, but they're really 2 sides of the same coin. Process and data are 2 sides of the same coin, number one. Number two, the tools were technical and required like development and coding skills. So making this whole capability low code, no code, to increase the audience is the second thing. Second sort of way we make this like work, but to truly make it scalable, you need governance and guardrails and sort of a supported approach to kind of doing this at scale across the company. So those are we think just simplifying the whole middleware stack to something that's easily understandable by everybody, accessible to everybody, but being able to do that with some scale and governance, those are the things that we think are going to help unlock the need, meet the needs here.
So if I summarize that, in essence, it's integration, which simplifies the complexity of the workflow. There's no code, low code, which enables more of the workers to get on board. And then there's governance and guide rails that keep people basically.
That's a really good way to put it. So integration is basically you connect to, you've got a very heterogeneous environment. You need to be able to connect to anything in your company, and so that's integration. And automation now lets you kind of do your cohesive workflows across all of them, and then you do this with governance and security and guardrails. So you can do this at high scale. I think you can't get to scale without safety, right?
Well, then how does it interoperate with, say someone's got a deployment on AWS? Is it going to be cloud agnostic, or it'll be Azure, AWS, Google Cloud? I mean, how does it work in that?
Yeah, for us, anything that you can connect to with an API, or directly through a data, or even through like UI, right? So, connectivity to us is, we think API connectivity has significant advantages because it's more robust to changes in the underlying applications and data models. But in the real world, you've got a lot of legacy systems, cloud applications. So you connect with APIs where you can, and where you don't have APIs, you do connect directly to the data sources, or get information through the screens. So it's I think that's like the sort of the like the basic foundation is to be able to connect to anything in your company.
Well, let's look ahead to the future of automation, because I think that subject is on the minds of a lot of business leaders. One of the things I see with automation now is, we see this future. I think some people are almost scared of it. There's sort of this robot assembly line. Yeah. But first of all, I'm not sure that's ever going to come to pass. But the other thing is that we are it feels like very much in the infancy of automation now. It's only just begun. It's sort of in many ways, still a slow, awkward process. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But I guess the real question is, what do you see a few years out or several years out? What's the future of automation, and how can we prepare for it now?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. So I think automation today in the software context has been a little bit sort of being narrowly defined, where you're looking at what people are doing today and trying to capture what they're doing in a bot, and then the bot automates what a human being does. That's,
Right.
I think, a very limited view of automation. Of course, there's economic benefits to kind of replacing human beings with bots, but we
Right.
think the real power of automation is not just doing what you were doing in the past, but with bots, but to to think about how you want to actually get a customer onboarded, like like an employee onboarded, and then and capture basically just look at the directions you want to go and automate automate for innovation, right? Versus automate for just like replacing people with bots.
Hmm.
So I think the future of automation is going to be around every company has a vision of you're a retail company, you know what greatness looks like, but
Hmm.
how do you go from here to there? There's a lot of vision in the company. How do you how do you kind of like put make that vision a reality, right? And
Hmm.
that vision has a lot of ideas. There's hundreds of ideas, thousands of ideas across different parts of the company, customer facing parts of the company, the supply chain parts of the company, like the business operations, sales and marketing. So all of these areas, there's what greatness looks like, being able to describe those and then be able to automate those and be able to change that as a team. Automation, we see it as being a team sport across the entire company,
Hmm.
and that's really about innovation and being the best. It's almost like the company achieves this state of growth mindset, right?
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
individual. So as new challenges come in, you're able to adapt and change what you do.
Hmm.
So that ability um, uh, to uh, to innovate, to automate like the things you want to get done,
Hmm.
versus just looking back in the past and like doing what you were doing 10 years ago faster. I
Hmm.
think it's a broader sense of what automation, the potential of automation for enterprises.
Interesting. Vijay, I think you said it. Clearly, automation has got a bright future. It's going to be adopted faster and faster, I would say, in the years ahead. Thanks so much for sharing your insight today, and please come back and talk with us again sometime.
Well, thank you, James. It was really great talking to you.